of these 20, which is 187 students, you could walk into any classroom in the Bethel School District and you're liable to find one student in that room that does not look forward to going home at night. Hi, my name is Bud Rigoulot, and I'm the founder of Quarters for Kids, and I'm here today with three special guests from the Bethel School District and a recent student that has gone through these times. I'm here with Jay Bowers, Jackie Crowley, and Cameron Register. We're here to talk about the upcoming December 15th fundraiser that we are holding for the McKinney-Vento Program for the Bethel School District. And I would like to ask you, Jackie, can you please tell me a little bit about the McKinney-Vento Program and what you do and how it helps?
Well, McKinney-Vento is a federal program that's been put in place so that students can stay in their home school when they're experiencing a homeless situation. And it provides that consistency and a place where they're supported and that they know people, and it provides that one safe place while they're experiencing hard times. And McKinney-Vento provides supports and resources for these children. And so our job is to work with the schools and find out who these children are so that we can begin to support them and make sure that they can succeed academically. And the first two things that we always do is make sure that they have free breakfast and lunch, because when they're McKinney-Vento qualified, they have immediate access to free breakfast and lunch. And then the second thing we do is we make sure that they have transportation. So if they're living outside of their homeschool area, we will provide either a bus or reimbursement gas cards so that they have regular attendance and can be at school every day and be successful.
That is great. Now let me ask you this. I understand the federal government helps support this. But what I also understand with the federal government is they allocate $995,000 a year per state. 42 to 48,000 children in the state of Washington divided by 356 days is $28 a year. Does that $28 a year make it through the year for these kids? Does it buy them gas? Or is there other ways that people can help?
The supports and resources for these children add up to far greater than the $28. And we really rely on community resources to provide the greatest number of supports for these children. And we can provide some money through Title I for an outfit or two, or maybe we'll pay for credit retrieval classes or sports fees. But when you have so many children you're dealing with, the money doesn't go very far. And so then that's when we go to the community, and the community then provides. Jay might want to speak to the Power Pack program, which is a food program.
Yeah. So like Jackie said, one of the issues is not only is there enough money, but how can that money be allocated? McKinney-Vento funds can't just be used for anything. We know students want to feel like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so some of the funds that the community provides to us can be used to help students feel just like every other student. And so for that, we're very grateful. Our superintendent, Tom Siegel, called a hunger task force together. This is going on 3 years. And this is a group of faith leaders, school leaders, community leaders, business leaders, civic groups that come together to support students who on the weekends don't have adequate food. We call those Power Packs, and it's a Power Pack program funded in part by United Way of Pierce County. We're very grateful for those funds because we have two primary faith leaders that help us to serve all 27 schools with food items. We also have a young man who in the 7th grade was walking by a vending machine, and he found another student asking for money. It was because the student had given his last money to his little brother, and he didn't have anything to eat and he was hungry. And so this young man, Cale Johnson, he talked to his grandma, and eventually they came up with the idea that maybe we should have some emergency supplies in the secondary schools in terms of hygiene, clothing, and food, so that kids can feel like any other student, and there is kind of a safety net for them. So, we're proud, as Jackie said, to say that we have worked really hard as a Bethel School District to support students any way we can, but we just can't do it alone, and we don't have the funding available to give the students what they need in order to be the best that they can be.
Well, I understand that. I have lived in the Bethel School District for 22 years, and I've seen it grow to the point now that the allocated kids in one school is one-fold, two-folds more than it was 10 years ago in these same schools. So that itself adds more kids on your plate, more kids on yours. And what I like about the story you was just telling me is this is a 7-year-old boy that walked by and he saw that there was something wrong here and he acted on it.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is a normal person in our community that stepped up to help others.
Yeah.
And I think with the McKinney-Vento program, that is one thing that through the years that I have found out working with other McKinney-Vento programs, and like with Cameron, that there's not enough that the community could do to help. I mean, they could reach out to the school districts, they could say coats, anything. With winter coming right now is the hardest time. I know I volunteer in schools and I watch kids when it's a day or two before a long holiday start acting up. They do not want to go home. And that's sad because all of us, we know when we were growing up, holidays was great. 2 weeks off, but 2 weeks struggling for food, 2 weeks trying to get by. One thing I'd like to ask you, okay, you talk about the McKinney-Vento program and how you pick people up and then you take them places here and there. That becomes very expensive taxis and buses, and that's gas, and that costs time and stuff like that, and that all adds up. So when the McKinney-Vento program is short on funds, it's coming from somewhere else, right? And if I'm correct, it's causing a struggle in a different area. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so it just comes out of our general fund, and money is tight anyway. And again, we want to provide our students with the greatest opportunities to excel and to be the best they can be. But when you have scarce or limited resources, then and you want to support our McKinney-Vento students, then you're right, then money comes out from other places as well, so that it's inadequate for everybody.
Let me ask you something, Cameron.
Yeah.
When was the first time that you realized in your life you were struggling, that you wanted to reach out and ask for help?
I went to Franklin Pierce District originally before I got into high school. So coming into my freshman year, I had all my classes. I was going to join the next year at Franklin Pierce, and I wanted to excel. I wanted to do, advanced placement. I wanted to take band. I wanted to do all these things. But then my parents, they split. The house was broken. So then my mom had to go one place. My father had to go one place. And then he was in like the Puyallup district. And we found somewhere to room with somebody. And I knew my mom couldn't afford that on her own. So we had to room with somebody. And I was so mad because I was going to go to the Franklin Pierce District and I had all these classes, everything signed up, and then I had to find out I have to go to Graham Capallison now because that's where my new housing was. So I did my best in school and everything, but then I didn't have any like friends or anything. Everything was new to me, and I had to choose new classes and stuff, and I felt too afraid to go and talk to maybe like a counselor or try to find help, because actually at the time there was an overpopulation of students, and I just never felt like I could go and talk to a counselor or get the time of day to do that. I finished up that year, but the housing wasn't regular, and halfway through we moved again, and it was just tough to stay focused at home, and there was really no place for me to just get my homework done or anything. So I stayed after a lot. I never really wanted to go home. Yeah, I made do with what I had, but had I known there was a lot more resources, I could have definitely been a lot better off. And so things happened again. Housing change, and eventually I had to go to Bethel High School. Same thing there, changed classes, but I took it a little bit more seriously and stayed after a lot more. But then, I had some friends that went to Challenger High School, and that just opened up a whole new world to me, because they were talking about all these resources that have been helping them finish classes sooner and everything. And so I eventually was eligible to be there, and I'm grateful for that. But being there, I made a lot of friends, and I knew that there was so much support there, and everybody there, maybe not everybody, but there's homeless kids, there were parents, there were people that just maybe just have like chemical imbalances like ADHD, stuff like that just they can't do their best. So I just found out a lot more resources, and especially going to Challenger, and I was able to open up and actually get the time to talk to a counselor, and I just found a lot more resources with Bethel.
Now, Jay, do you see a difference in graduation, attention, being in school with kids that are homeless in McKinney-Vento compared to regular kids? Is there a drastic?
Yeah, so we all know that navigating our years in school is not the easiest for anyone. There's a lot of changes you go through in all aspects of your life and body and mind, but for students who at least have stability, then they're able to focus on the academics in a much easier way than you can imagine. Not sure where you're going to be, and Cameron, that took courage sharing your story.
Oh.
And so students who are facing homelessness are often wondering, where's my next meal going to come from? Where am I going to spend the night? Am I going to be changing, in some other way that I lose my friends? And so the graduation rates for students facing homelessness is certainly a lot less than those who are coming from very stable homes.
Yeah, I looked at a study just recently, just for the Bethel School District, which Bethel School District is one of the hardest hit districts in the state of Washington for homelessness in McKinney-Vento. And I know homelessness has different definitions, because in the study it talks about 27% being unsheltered. But there's an explanation for that number. And could you tell me a little bit about that?
So in that number would be families living in cars or tents or broken down mobile homes that are uninhabited, or campers that people have discarded, or we have a family who's living in a garden shed of a friend. It could be we have families that have moved into foreclosed housing and are just squatting there. It's any place that doesn't have, utilities or any kind of adequate facilities, and probably someplace that's leaking and has mold, and places that you or I wouldn't consider as habitable. And that's what's included.
So of these 20, which is 187 students, you could walk into any classroom in the Bethel School District, and you're liable to find one student in that room that does not look forward to going home at night, because of the fact their facilities, like you say, counselor, and being able to get an education was wonderful. But when I talk about this, and one question I wanted to ask you is, how much did your grades mean when you were in that time in your life that it was hard? You had hate. You didn't want to go to a different school. Did you fall back some? And regress to the point that, it's like, why do I care? Because this is my future. We can take 1 out of 10 kids that go above that, But we're talking 90% of kids or 95% of the kids, when you're in a situation like we're talking about with McKinney-Vento, and we're talking about homelessness just in the Bethel School District, not other school districts, education is not important. I mean, they're there. A lot of them are there for breakfast and lunch and a warm place to stay. They go to classes, they go to school, they're there, but do they really feel like they're part of the group? Or there's something always on their mind about, what am I going to do tonight? What's my mom doing right now? Because she might be sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. Is she going to be able to pick me up in time from school? Or am I going to be sleeping across the street, in a blanket? There's so many different scenarios for that. Let me ask both of you, it's got to be impossible not to take this home with you every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to live this. This is probably one of the most important parts of Course for Kids that we believe in, is the fact that the people behind it are tremendous. You guys are tremendous. I know we cannot help every child, and we never will be able to. And there's a lot of times we have children that won't reach out, that do not want to help. Like, example, you could get them food stamps, you can get them on stuff, but they're afraid of what it's going to happen to their parents, because everybody believes their parents are going to turn around sooner or later. That's the one dream they do have. How do we get the McKinney-Vento program as a whole out there to these kids in these schools without drawing them out singly and letting them know, because you cannot walk up to each one of these kids and say, do you need help? Come on, most of the time they can say no. It's like if you ask somebody how they're doing. Oh, I'm fine. Is there ways that we can get out and reach out just as a group, as a whole, and then maybe more would step up and say, I have these problems? Or do we have systems like that help?
Well, I think that in the community, the more people that understand what McKinney-Vento is and what kind of support it provides, then if they happen to meet a student, or if they happen to be at a Boys and Girls Club, or they happen to be wherever kids hang out, and can engage in a conversation and maybe have built trust with that group of kids, and can say, hey, tell me about your situation, and then refer them on to their school counselor, or every school district by law has to have a McKinney-Vento liaison.
Yep.
Refer them to them. They're always listed on the websites, and we just have to spread the word, and more than just in the schools. Like in Bethel, it's really hard because Bethel covers 200 square miles, and there isn't like a central town or a central place where kids hang out. And so it's hard to spread the word outside of the school area. But if we have community members like you and all of your volunteers that understand it, and we can train more community volunteers to spread the word, then that's the more kids we can help.
Exactly. The big part of that is they're reaching out to you, which a lot of times when they do that, they get to the point they're reaching to you, they have nowhere else to reach. Right. But if you go into them and say, hey, these kids, do you want this and that? A lot of times they're going to say no. And that's one thing I'd like the audience to understand is, with this fundraiser we're doing, it brings a lot of awareness to the McKinney-Vento program. And Jay and Jackie will be there, and we'll have stuff set up for people that do want to know more about it, would like to volunteer, would like to donate to the school district, would like to sign up for, or know a family that could use the help. We're always here. And please remember, every time you see a quarter sitting around somewhere, think of Quarters for Kids and helping another kid. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.